Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's on My Workbench, HR manager and I are traveling, and we are in, I guess this would be Southwest Virginia here, pretty close to West Virginia. And we're in the town of Pearisburg, Virginia. And before I come to an area, I like to look and see, is there a leather? I'm always looking for a leather supply shop, a place where I can maybe find some different hardware or leather. Always looking for a bargain, if I can find a bargain, something to make the trip a little bit fun and interesting. And when I did the search, I come up with Soulbound Leather, and I clicked on about, and I had a conversation, or I didn't have a conversation yet, but I read through there and I'm like, I have to talk to this person that creates these leather goods. And she has a website. I'm going to put that website, a link to that, in the video description. Do me a favor, go over there, take a look at it, and type in a note, and let this young lady know what you think about her leather products. But she has so much more here in the shop than I see on the website that I'm so happy I made the trip to this beautiful part of Virginia. If you've ever been in Virginia, you've never been in this part of the state, you owe it to yourself to come take a look at this little town. It's a cute little town. There's a restaurant over here. What's it called?
The Happy Hog.
The Happy Hog. We're going to the Happy Hog for lunch. I'm excited to give that a try. But so you've been doing leather work for like 20 years.
13.
13?
About 13, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think it's been 13.
13 years?
Maybe. Maybe it has been 20. I don't know.
Yeah, well.
I started when I was like 26 or 27. I'm almost 40, so.
Okay. Yeah, so I get that a lot. When do I start Leathercraft? And it's like, where do you mark that? Because my first Leathercraft I probably did was when I was in Boy Scouts, and work on a merit badge or such, do a little bit of leathers, and I made a knife sheath for a knife my dad and I made together. And I wish I still had that sheath. It wasn't very good, but it'd be kind of fun. People are like, what's your first project? I could show that there. But tell me a little bit about.
That was one of my first projects.
Is that it there? That's beautiful.
It's ugly.
No. No. Friends forever, sisters for life.
Yeah, that's my sister Brittany. I made her one just like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, I have so many questions. I want to try to put them in an order that makes sense. And I think for a lot of people, how did you get started in Leathercraft, and what did that look like? And I ask that because I really try to encourage people to get out and try things and find something that they like.
Yeah. I got started in leatherwork when my kid was constantly sick and in and out of the hospitals, and so I was just like her caregiver, and I just felt like there was something more to my life than just caregiving for my sick child. And I had a really beautiful dog that I felt like really needed a leather collar, but I couldn't afford one. And so I decided to go and find some belts that I could probably convert into a collar. And so I went to a thrift store and found a couple of what I thought were leather belts, made a couple, saw how quickly they broke, and then I was like, there's no way this is real leather. So I started tearing it apart and seeing all the different components in the fake leather. And then I went on a hunt to try and figure out like what is real leather, then how can I find it, and that's how I got started. I just was curious, really, is what it was.
Yeah, I've said before on some of my videos that the two scariest words in the leather world, especially for people buying leather, is genuine leather.
Yeah,
because that can mean it can mean dust that's like glued back together and then formed into a strip, and they're trying to sell that as a quality belt.
that's typically what it is.
Yeah.
So I try to tell people, they're like, well, my leather was genuine and it broke down. Your leather don't do that, right? I'm like, no, it breaks in. Like,
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah.
I got to remember. Can I borrow that?
Sure.
It breaks in.
It won't break down. It'll break in.
Yeah, and I like how in there, I can't remember the exact words, but you like how the project really becomes part of you, and
Yeah.
you part of
Oh,
it.
yeah. SoulboundLeather, my business name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time that I discovered leatherworking, I was heavy into the game World of Warcraft.
Okay.
It was kind of how I spent, my time or whatever. And so I played this video game, and I was a holy paladin, which is like where the wings came from because I was really good at it. And I'm a very goal-oriented person, so it kind of fed a lot of my competitive nature, and then also like my goals. Like I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best on the server, and then I'm going to join the best guild and all this stuff. So that's exactly what I did. And I was this holy paladin. So at the time I was discovering leatherwork, I was trying to figure out like what would a good business name be. And in the game World of Warcraft, when you find an item, it's called a BOE, or buy non-equip. And what that means is you can pick it up and you can either give it to someone or you can equip it. But once you equip it onto a character, it becomes Soulbound. And so that's where my name came from. So I just really liked that, because I was like, well, that's exactly what my leatherwork is, so it becomes part of you.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, I wish I had something cool like that. Mine's Robert Little Leather. Wow, so
It's your name.
I get it, but after your story, it's like, that's boring. I need to go create like some new name there. But no, it's interesting, and I've shared that I started down this hobby because, like, some of the words that we hear a lot of times when we're trying to sell a belt or something to somebody, and someone goes, oh, I can make that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you probably can, but it's probably not going to be what you thought it started off to be, and now you know why the price is where it's at. And yes, she picked on me about the pricing of my products. I probably need to work on that some, because I'm glad I'm not like a town away, because I would feel bad, because I would potentially steal business from you because my price would be too low.
I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
People are going to price their prices the way that they are. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be around everywhere. The only thing that I can do is I educate my customers, and I let them know, I'm actually running a business and I depend on the money to survive,
Right.
not just to pay my bills. And so I kind of do a little bit of a cost breakdown for people that actually do ask me questions about it. And you have to charge for your overhead, for your electricity, for your rent. You have to make sure that all the money that you get from creating the things is covering all of those expenses. And if you're only charging for cost plus time, it just doesn't equal any kind of profits for your business. So you can't actually like build anything off of that. You can only stay where you are.
No, that's a great point. My pre-leather work, I worked for Sherwin-Williams for 30 years, and so we look at what's the break-even point. If it costs me, I'll just use easy numbers. If it costs you $10,000 to have a shop, that's rent, lights, insurance, that type of thing, how much do you have to sell based off of profit? And
Yeah.
you could do easy math. If you made, for easy math, if you made $10 on a belt, then you can really quickly look and see how many you have to sell just to break even.
Yeah.
And that doesn't put food on the table.
No.
And I mean, one of the toughest things for me is, we were talking a little bit about custom work and the drawbacks of doing custom work. And I spend a lot of time scratching my head trying to figure out. That's fine. So one of the problems about doing custom work is you spend a lot of time scratching your head trying to figure out how's this all going to work. Because let's say it's a knife and it's got a finger guard on it, and that you want that to fit in there. You want to maybe incorporate how that doesn't push through the tip of the sheath. You spend a lot of time scratching your head trying to figure out what that is, and that's time that you could be doing something else. And a lot of times it's probably, I'm not charging enough, I realize that, but a lot of times what I try to do is I equate it to how long it took me and how long it would have, how many belts I could have made in that length of time, and I try to price it according to my measurement of belts. Yeah. And so I think you have to be careful, because you can spend a lot of time chasing the custom stuff. And I'm sitting here looking at, she's got some just beautiful bracelets here, or cuffs made from leather, just got tooling designs and that type of thing. So I think the thing you have to be comfortable with is saying no. And we were talking earlier about some of the projects that I've done where I probably would have been a lot better off if I'm like, yeah, I really don't do that, and then move forward. So, how was that learning process for you in that as well? Did you go through that similar curve?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, it was recent. So Quinn, my daughter, she was sick for a long time, and there's no way I could have afforded her medical insurance. So I purposefully like did not grow my business beyond a certain point. And so keeping it small, I was able to do custom work. So that's basically how I grew my business, was off custom work, and I was doing nothing but knife sheaths. And it does take a lot of time. And no, I wasn't charging accordingly. And eventually, when she got old enough to where I wanted to grow my business, I had a hard time growing it, because custom work leaves you chained to the bench. You really, I mean, it's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing my custom work and stuff, but there was no growth in it. Like, I was limited to the amount of hours that I could put into it, and I was limited to how many projects I can do in a week. So there just wasn't any growth in it. When I wanted to think about growing and what the future looked like in that way, I couldn't hire an employee to do it. You know, I couldn't spend time on my computer updating my website because it wasn't paid hours. You know, so that had a lot to do with like me getting out of custom work. And so when people talk about custom work and how much time and effort it goes into it, technically you can make a lot of money on custom work. You could. And I could too. Like, I could easily charge $2,000 to like build you a purse, you know, no problem. But would you find all the customers to make that $2,000 purse over and over and over again? You'd be constantly chasing people to come after you for work. And, you know, making a name for yourself is a little different, but it's still, you know, you're just kind of trading time for money.
Yeah, it's probably a big balancing act, really, when you look at it. For most people that are doing it, if you're in this part of the country, you have to stop by and see her shop. She has this beautiful shop, so many things on display. I won't show most of my leather goods here because her work is just absolutely beautiful. The fit and finish on these items just leave me in awe, and that doesn't happen on its own. And I was talking with a gentleman. I don't know if you know who Sean Woodsum is, but he makes custom knives for our industry, head knives, modified head knives, trim knives. And I was talking to him recently by text. He was on his way to Pendleton for the leather trade show, and I said, Sean, I think I know where you're at. It's a tough grind because, well, one, when he goes to the trade show, he's got time to pack up and then travel there, do his show, and come back. And the whole time he's there, no one's pushing his cart, so to speak. There's no one. His shop is quiet. And so when you go set up in a booth, then it's quiet. And in some ways, when you're doing custom work, the rest of this stuff comes to a standstill. And I had someone make it was really a negative comment. When I bought my Cobra 26 sewing machine, they said, "Congratulations, you now have a factory. So now you're turning out factory goods."
I wish that was true for buying a sewing machine.
Yeah, so they're like, you know, out goes the world of you being a custom leather worker. So they were taking, because I had a sewing machine, they were like taking the artisan part out of my business. And I'm like, that's not true at all. And I do get people, because I hand sew my belts. Everybody that's a regular viewer of mine knows I hand sew on my belts. And you're like, "Don't you have a sewing machine?" "Yeah, I got a sewing machine." Like, you know, that's really not all that smart. And I get it. I enjoy that part of it. That's my therapy. You know, when I look at, she's got some beautiful belts here.
We all hype those items, though, that are your therapy. Like, wallets for me don't sell, and I like to hand stitch them, and I don't sell them for the price that I should be charging for hand stitching, but that's my therapy, you know?
Yeah, so I you know, really, when you talked about, you know, the need to get into the business, you know, to make money, and I really gather, and I could have, you know, everybody reads a story and takes their own spin on that, but this was something that helped ground you in a difficult time, you know, to, you know, something that you can create. And I'm so happy. I've made comments a few times. I've made belts. I make belts. Sometimes I'm like, I wish it was a little bit better. And I've made belts. I made one for my brother, Tom. He just hiked the Appalachia Trail.
Nice. That comes right out here.
Yeah, I know. And so when I made that belt for him, and it's the same size as mine, and when I finished, I took it in. I always take in every project and show my wife, HR manager. And when I made it, I walked in, and before I handed it to my wife, I'm like, "This is my best work yet. This is the best piece that I've ever belt up to this point is sub to this one. And it's not, it doesn't continue to grow. It's not always that way. Then you make a mistake on the next one that brings you back down. It's like playing golf, that shot in the woods, like, okay, I am mortal. But it's fun to make those. And I'm sure you've got projects. When I said that, I saw a smile on your face that you can appreciate that as well. And then you got other stuff that's not that way. And I always said that, if I could just make belts and make videos of making belts, I would probably just make belts. I wouldn't make another thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what I like doing. I think I'd probably lose viewers because they're like, I want to see something different than a belt. But I really like making the belts, and I like to make smaller items because sometimes when people hear your story, then they feel like I want to buy something. And you said something before. I don't want to sell anything under sympathy, and I understand that. That's a pride of owning a business, part of that. But there are people that after they hear your story, they want to buy something from you, and so that's one reason why I make some smaller things. I only wanted to tell you how much I charge for my minimalist wallet. Here's my minimalist wallet here. It holds quite a bit.
Oh, nice.
So the first 30 of them, I made a batch of like 30 of them, and I sold them for $25 a piece.
It's kind of like the Torin wallet that I made.
Yeah,
right
I saw
there.
$25.
Oh my
Is
gosh.
And so this year I got really brave and raised the price to 35. I had some that I embossed on the outer part of it, and I was asking for 45, and I wasn't selling, so I went back to 35. So yeah, I've been looking at your wallets. You got some beautiful wallets there. I probably can't get out of here without buying something, and it's not a sympathy purchase. She's got just beautiful work here.
Don't feel bad about selling your stuff for what you want to get out of it. If you are okay with putting work and effort into it, and you're okay with making $5 an hour, that's totally fine. Like if you're okay with that, you don't have the same expenses as other people, so you never know like why people are charging a certain amount.
Right.
My job is to educate the people about why mine is more expensive, and I will continue to do that. But some people don't care about that. They just want a cheaper wallet, and it might be of the same quality, and that's fine. But there's plenty of hobbyists out there, and there's plenty of people like me out there, so.
Yeah, we had a house built a few years back, and the builder's like, hey, I'm high. My price is high, and I give you a good product for that. And he goes, there's builders out here that are less expensive than me. And he said there are customers for both of us.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I believe there's customers for everybody in it. But you shouldn't be embarrassed. But I promise I wouldn't take a bunch of time. So I want to ask you a question, because I get a lot of people that like the business side of things and the art of selling, because a lot of times if you look at, I've seen art, could be a painting, could be pottery, and just because you're able to make those and put them on a shelf doesn't mean you're a business person and know how to run a business. It's hard to marry those two together, and I think it's odd when one person can do all of those things. A lot of times, used to be when I would deal with in the painting world, a painting company, it always made me nervous if there's a partnership and they are both good at either books or both good at painting. We need one that's good on both sides of that equation, so someone's looking after the books.
Yeah, I'm looking for the bookkeeper partner.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so if you're around Pearisburg, Virginia, and you're a bookkeeper, then reach out. But where I'm going with that is, tell me what it's like if, let's say this is your store. I walk in and I'm looking at belts. How do you tell your story about that belt and why your belt is priced the way it is? Or wallet, whatever you want to talk about. Everybody's got their thing they really talk about.
I don't know. I just tell them that I'm a business, not a hobbyist. I tell them that, if they're asking specifically about why the price is higher, I tell them about the quality of the leather. This isn't like cheap leather. This is coming from a very specific cowhide. I'll show them the cowhide over there, like where it's coming from, why the back cuts and the shoulder cuts are better than like the belly cuts, and I'll show them the hide. So like I go into like a whole process of, this is what you're buying. These are the buckles that you're buying. You're buying solid brass buckles. Here's the difference. I often will bring like a buckle from like something that I found at the thrift store and say, this is the difference in the buckle that you're getting, but you can also choose not to have a buckle if you want and just put your own buckle on it. And then I just tell them that, you know, the price of this is paying for this beautiful shop that I have and the wonderful goods that I'm able to make. And I don't know. That's pretty much it.
Well, you're telling your story.
Yeah.
Instead of, because I've been before where someone's like, yeah, it's X, and then they kind of stop there. And so, you know, I kind of feel like I'm able to judge when I'm talking to someone if they want to listen long enough to hear the full story or the Reader's Digest version of the story. And so it's to me, I always say sales is a little bit like, you know, being in a play in high school. You just have to be comfortable with telling your story and knowing your audience. And so, you know, I don't have a problem being up front and saying this belt that I hand them a belt. That's the thing. I try to get it in their hands. Like if someone was looking here, I would take it down and put it in their hands so they can feel the belt. And I tell them up front, like, this belt here, I've got $42 in materials in that belt. Yep. So we start there. It's $42 in materials, and I got 5 hours of labor in that. So, you know, you can just say if you're making $25 an hour, you know, would you work for $25 an hour? You know, ask them.
I tell them, I'm like, I don't work for $2 an hour.
Yeah. So I've got $40 in materials and $125 in labor to make that, and that doesn't cover the cost of having a storefront.
Yeah.
A business. $20,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff is real, and just because you have that piece of equipment, a lot of those are consumable. They don't last forever. You got to replace blades on your splitter. You know, the sewing machine is going to need maintenance done on it, and you have to recoup that. Because I had someone ask me if I went to a machine sewn belt, would I sell it for less? And I'm like, I don't know that I would sell it for less because I have to pay for the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't sell it for less.
Yeah. So yeah, she's already heard my price. She's like, no, you could probably sell for more, and I probably could. And I do say, I like having my bags less expensive enough to where an ordinary person can grab that bag and feel like they got a deal and walk out with a smile on their face because they're excited about what they bought. So there's a balance act there. I want everybody. I want them to be happy and me to be happy as well. But
so one thing to consider is having different versions of the same thing. So like for instance, I have your plain dump tray. I call them boneyards. And then I've got this one that's got a little bit of border tooling, a little bit of laser etching on it. But recently, I didn't think this one would sell. I was like, I'm an artist, so I'm going to make one that I drew. You know, draw the thing. I'm a hand tool the thing, hand paint it and everything. I actually have a video of it on my Instagram of me doing it.
We'll put a link to our Instagram in the video description as well.
So this item, I did a whole video recording, and then I framed the original drawing. It was signed. I put it out here thinking, okay, it's not going to sell. It's going to be one of those pieces that, you know, just are something to show, like the differences and why the price is. I priced it at almost $200, and it's a tray, you know. Yeah. And someone came in and bought it within 2 weeks. Like, you just never know, you know. But having that price, like, she saw all of them, you know, and she was like, I like the artistry in this one. Right. You know, and you sell, like your hand-stitched belts, for instance. You have hand-stitched belts. Price them the way that you need to price them. Right. But have the sewn belts so that way you can get the money that you need to get out of them. Sure. Because you never know who's going to buy the expensive one. Some people want that novelty.
No, you're right. And maybe I need to go back to it. I considered at one time, I do woodworking too. And I thought about making like a custom rack that you could hang in your closet or in the bedroom or wherever, and it would actually be, I know it's corny, an art display of my handmade belt, to where you could put 2 or 3 belts on there, maybe a brown one and a black one with all the different tooling designs. I do more geometric on belts than tooling. I have a hard time getting a pattern into that narrow
like
palette.
Drawing. Yeah.
But something to display that, and I'm like, oh, it's corny. No one would buy that. But maybe I'm missing that, because you're right. You can take a regular tote bag a lot of mine I make from SB foot leather, which is Red Wing boot leather, and I could put you got some beautiful alligator over there. You could put alligator on the front of it there, and price it accordingly, and no one has to buy it, and you can use that as a display. I've got some belts that are like extra big, and people are like, I don't know if you'll ever sell that, and I'm like, I don't necessarily need to, because that's one of my mainstay belts, and if someone buys it off the display, I don't have it to show in my show anymore.
I mean, having those expensive items, like I have an art piece right there, I wouldn't sell that for less than $500.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, people like to look at it, but it also showcases my capability. You know, like that was hand drawn. Like I came up with that in my head.
That's your
the original
right there. Drawing there.
And then it's tooled, and then like I'm capable. You know, like that's kind of what that piece says, is that I might have like a little bit less expensive items here that everyday people can buy, but you can also buy that if you want, and you know, like it's like all this stuff is made by a true artist because there's the proof right there, you know. So that's what I do, is I try to, and surprisingly the most expensive stuff ends up selling, which is why I don't have a whole lot of it here.
Yeah, no, I get it. I had I'm trying to remember, I had one of my viewers, Milo, and he'll be watching this video, and he had, and I'll throw this last thing at you and then we'll wrap up. I want you to get back to your workbench. But he had made, a lot of times we get into making a certain thing, and then the friends see that and like, I want one of those. And then they have a friend that sees that. And he started down this path making a specific design of a purse. And it was a purse design that he had seen elsewhere, and he just kind of adapted it and made it his, and then multiple times. And he had what I think he now refers to, what I thought was a friend, look at that and go, oh, how did you design that? Oh, it's a pattern that I found, and I just kind of adapted it. Oh, so it's not original. I mean, that's I thought you'd do something original. And I said earlier when I got here, like, it's pretty hard to have an original thought in Leathercraft, because Leathercraft's been around as long as there's been people killing animals and having hides.
I mean, how you gonna make an original belt? It's a freaking strip.
This isn't original,
right?
There you go. I mean, I'd never seen that design before. Now, I'll say it again. If there's anything that I'm making, you want to make that, then run with it. I'm not trying to keep anybody from making mine, because I've had people like, can I make a belt like that? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather you not show up at my next artist show and set a booth up next to me with my design and have it half price. But I have an answer for that, and I'm not going to share it, because one day it might happen, and I already know what I'm going to do. But I mean, talk a little bit about that, the creativity. But then making, when you make 100 of those, do you feel like it's a factory and there's no artistry in that? I mean,
I think the first one is always artistry, especially if you're building the pattern.
Right.
After that, there's a lot less of it, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. But you can also create the same pattern and change the design a little bit, and it's still art. A lot of the stuff that I make, I tool on top of it, which isn't going to be the same every time. Plus, like, depending on what you're doing. So, in my opinion, a factory is you're buying a pallet of leather and making the one item out of that pallet of leather. You're getting the same leather every time. Here, I can't do that. I'm not buying a whole pallet of leather and cranking out like the same exact thing over and over and over again. So everything's gonna be a little bit different no matter what, and there is artistry in that. Like, even if it's the same pattern, the leather's gonna be a little bit different, because I'm not buying the same exact leather every single time. I'm not buying a pallet of the same leather. So I'm changing something about it to kind of like make it look better or feel better with the type of leather that I'm using at the time. So I don't know, I think there's some artistry in that too.
Yeah, but Milo, he was like, sorry, Milo, if I go too far, but
Call him
I
out.
mean, he really reached out, and he's like he walked out of his shop, he's like, I haven't made anything for like 2 weeks, because it just really, it hurt to have somebody look at it as like, why don't you make something unique no one else has ever made before? But when you pick up and make anything, and I do encourage people to try to find a hobby they like, because I think as human beings that we become grounded by creating things. And I don't know, maybe it's corny. One day I won't be here, but my belts will live on. You know, my kids will have my belts and go on from there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really kind of a cool thing there. Is there anything else you'd like to add or
No.
encourage people that may be following this same path that you've been on?
I don't know.
I know that's a tough one. I'll let you think for just a second here. But yeah, I appreciate you taking time to talk with us today. I like the brand that you've got. I like the story that you've got. And my wife's been in here looking around. It's probably going to cost me some money to come over here and visit your shop. But just some beautiful things here. And I would encourage people that if you watch other people do wood carving or leather work, and you're like, I think I would enjoy that, even if it's just to make a few for yourself, to get off the couch, go out there, put yourself out there, and try something different, and find what helps give you purpose in life. Because I think there are times when we start thinking like, is this all there is to life? And I think when I look at the art you've created, I mean, I'm not a skull person, but that is really cool, and I like the pencil drawing behind it. Whoever buys that, they're probably gonna have to have both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well,
yeah.
I'll definitely frame that for them.
Yeah, but it's really cool there. But any closing words?
No, but if you want to get into the business of leatherwork, it's not easy. It may seem easy, but it's really not. As a matter of fact, probably about 40% of your time is going to be spent creating items. The rest is going to be pushing the items, doing the website, doing the administrative crap, going to shows and marketing, basically. Because if you're not in front of your customers, they're not going to know that you're there. So that's the part of the business of it. So a lot of time isn't spent in actually creating the things. But
yeah,
don't give up either. Like,
yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. I mean, if you're gonna you run a business, a little bit of what I talked about before, you have to be willing to get out and tell your story. And I'm not saying that if you're an introvert that you shouldn't do this. My wife and I joke, and I've come a long ways, but I'm a trained extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually an introvert.
Okay.
I got a YouTube channel, and I'm an introvert. And there's times that when I go to pick up the microphone, I have to like pump myself up, like, all right, I'm gonna go do that. Like, I was embarrassed to ask you about, can we do a little bit of an interview and talk about what drives you and makes you interested in it, and a little bit about your story. That was really hard to do.
Hey.
It's all right. The U.S. postal employee came in and delivered the mail for today.
Yep.
But I was just saying that put yourself out there and give it a try. And like I said, I appreciate you taking time today. I'll put links to all of her social media in the description if you want to reach out. Go check out the website if nothing else. There are some beautiful items that one, if you're in this part of the world, you need to stop in, because she doesn't have it all displayed. And I've had people like, you need to do a website. And I think part of what you're talking about there, I'm like,
so much time.
I'm not sure I want to do a website. Well, one, I don't know if I want to be that busy. If I can make 3 belts a week and do my YouTube channel, that's enough investment for me. We still have a life to live outside of that. Well, with all that said, I think we're going to wrap up. But let me put it back to you and give you a chance to tell people how to find you. And you can go into as much detail as you want, like physically find you and socially find you.
Okay. So I do have a physical storefront in Pearisburg, Virginia. I'm open Wednesdays through Saturdays, 10 to 5. Sometimes I'm closed because I have events that I go to. My website is SoulBoundLeather.com. You can find me at TikTok at SoulBoundLeather, Instagram at SoulBoundLeather, and Facebook at SoulBoundLeather. And I'm very active on all of them.
Wow, that's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, for me, we were talking earlier. I said the YouTube thing really, it chews up 40 hours a week. Now that's not 8 hours a day, because it seems like my wife can attest to it. If we're sitting and waiting at a restaurant, if I got 15 minutes, I'm over here typing away. I appreciate you taking time to be with the shop today. Please like, share, and subscribe. More importantly, I hope you have a great day.